Hi, and welcome to Executive Secretary Global. I'm Paula Harding, and I am an Executive Assistant working alongside the Dean of Education at the Liverpool School of Tropical Medicine. When Lucy asked me to present for Global, I thought about what we are going through and what is important to us right now. And what immediately came to mind was change. Change is inevitable and unavoidable, and by building your influence, you will open up your world to opportunities. Influence is about having access to people and resources when you need to maximise those opportunities. And during the session, I'm going to show you how you can develop your influence. My own journey with influence started 5 years ago. I left a role I was really unhappy in, with no job to go to. I was at a point of feeling like a failure, not realising my worth. But that all changed when I started working at the Liverpool School of Tropical Medicine, where my value was acknowledged and appreciated, and my confidence slowly increased. Since that time, I've been on a journey of personal development, and I've attended many events throughout the UK and Europe, and more recently online. I'm also an active user of social media, and I've made so many connections with people from all over the world. What I've learned and what I want to share is the value of building your connections and developing your influence, which opens up your world to opportunities. So, let's get started. The key to sustainability in any area of business or growth, or if you like, evolution. We also know that the role of the assistant is constantly changing, and for a lot of people, change is uncomfortable. I personally love change. It's a challenge. I see it as an opportunity to try something new. But sometimes change makes me feel uncomfortable. So for example, if you get a new phone or there's a new software update and all the fonts change and everything's not where you're expecting it to be. But it's all part of a process and we need to be flexible and adapt to these changes. This is Professor Phil Padfield. This is my executive. And I'm really lucky because I work with an executive who values me. He values my role and the value that I add. We have a fantastic partnership and I am working on some challenging projects. But as lucky as I am, I'm also mindful that it won't always be rosy in the garden. One day things will change, and I'm preparing myself for that by using my influence. Now, I'm not a better assistant than anybody listening today. And in fact, I'm actually still learning to be a good assistant. I have colleagues at LSTM who I'm always learning from. However, by using my voice, by giving my opinion and getting involved, I'm using my influence. I get noticed, and by being noticed, I've opened up my world to opportunities. During this session, we'll go through developing your influence and opening up your world. We're going to look at what influence is and why it's essential. The importance of knowing your why. Building your networks now and using your influence. Understanding the law of reciprocity and specificity. Being credible in a corporate environment. Adapting your style and developing sensory acuity. And then finally, maximising your presence. So let's start with what influence is and why it's essential. If you look online, it says influence is the capacity to have an effect on the character, development, or behaviour of someone or something. Basically, what it means, if you need something, by having influence, you are more likely to get it. And that's what we want. We want you to be in a position where you are more likely than most. So, why is that essential? If we think about our areas of influence, when it comes to influence in the workplace, as assistants, we are an extension of our executives. We are their right hand. The whole point of an assistant is to make our executives more effective. We are employed as a tool to create efficiency for our executives. They are busy people, and our executives need us to influence others. By experience, assistants have learned that we need to build relationships with everyone in the workplace. We never know when we will need assistance from someone, and so we are already better at influencing than we know. But we also need to use our influence when we are networking or on social media. We are brand ambassadors for both ourselves and our organisations. And when we are networking or using social media, our behaviour has an impact on that. And by improving this, you are opening up your world to opportunities. Influence is an essential weapon in our armoury, and people will follow you because of what you represent. Now, the better you are, the better the results that you will achieve. So, who influences you? Have a think about someone who influences you. Why is it that they influence you? When someone influences you, it's because of how you feel about them. Okay, so I'm going to compare that to a coffee shop. We all have a favourite. My favourite is Costa. Every single day of the week, I would go to Costa. Costa was my golden nugget at the start of every day going into work. And I really missed it working from home. Costa is my favourite based on my experience of them. I know what the drink will be like, and I know I love the taste of it. I know what I'm going to get. I like the baristas, they're always friendly, and I really like the music that they play inside the stores. Now, these aren't things that Costa have told me. It's what I know about them from my own experiences of their brand. It's how I feel about them. People buy what they know, what they like, and what they trust. I buy Costa because it's what I know, it's what I like, and what I trust. Influence is the same. Who knows you? Who likes you? Who trusts you? How do you make people feel? Okay, so I asked you who influenced you. I'm going to give you an example of somebody who influences me. This is Amy Shilcock, and she is the Senior Business Manager at Hayes Recruitment in Liverpool. Now, when that day comes when I'm looking for another role, Amy will be the first person I call. Of course, there's other agencies in Liverpool, and perhaps they have better roles than Hayes, but I don't go there first. And that's because Amy reaches out to me. She asks my opinion. She shares information with me. She has built a connection with me. She is influencing me. If Amy has an EA role, she wants the right candidates, so she builds her influence with her connections. But that turns out that it's a win-win because I have a great contact in Amy. But it doesn't just happen either. You've got to spend time on it. And Amy really does spend time and effort, and it works for her. We all know how to influence. If we want a new phone, for example, and your birthday is coming up, you start to drop hints to plant the seeds. You don't need the phone now, but you may want it down the line. It's the same with your career. You need to start building your influence now. So why is influence essential? If we think about the future, why the question mark? None of us could have predicted what would happen this year, and we don't know at any point what the future will entail. The future isn't just years away, it's any time after now, this second, tomorrow, next week, or next year. Influence is essential as change is happening, and I'll give you some more examples. Okay, so we've all heard that the robots are taking our jobs, right? And sometimes it sounds a bit far-fetched and scientific, but it is true to some degree. Now, you may have seen clips of these robots in hotels in Japan, which deliver room service to your door. Well, not only in Japan. This is a screenshot of a hotel of a friend of mine in Southport. This is Betty, and Betty delivers room service to your door. But it doesn't have to be the robots either that will affect our jobs. I don't know if you saw this in the press about a year ago. Google announced a 2-year countdown to phase out support for third-party cookies so that everyone in the digital media industry is going to be affected. Marketeers now need to figure out how they're going to adapt. So even in the world of technology, changes have an impact. And as with the robots, it doesn't mean we'll necessarily lose our jobs, but it just means that everyone has to change. And in retail, physical stores are closing and online chains are taking over. You may have seen the recent announcement with the Boohoo deal. Now, this is going to affect thousands of workers, people who are going to have to adapt and make changes in their lives. Now, that all sounds very depressing and worrying, but the truth is, it's nothing new. When I was growing up, I didn't have a mobile phone, and I had to sit in the kitchen with one phone that we had in the house, and it was fixed by a cable to the wall. And it was very difficult having a private conversation with your mum and dad listening to every word. I was lucky. I had a very small television in my bedroom, but it didn't have a remote control. I had to get out of bed and turn one of the 3 channels that we had by hand. And I quite often got told off for falling asleep with the TV on. But now you can make calls and watch TV on mobile devices 24/7. Now that's gone even further. We didn't know that one day we'd be dictating our lives through Siri or Alexa. I have a few connections and they absolutely live through an Alexa or a Siri. One of my connections has a sensor in a lemon tree and it sends her a text when it's thirsty. And I bet many of you are miles ahead of me on this. I don't have an Alexa or a Siri, but I know in time I'll have no choice. Okay, so I've told you all about this change. So how does all this change and influence go together? And how does that open up your world to opportunities? Well, when change takes place, if we have influence, we are in a much better position to access opportunities. Opportunities being a time or a set of circumstances that make it possible to do something. Now, I'm passionate that we keep up to date with our skills, and I massively promote the hashtag Never Stop Learning. This is a post from my friend Jackie Lieb, and in this post, she's telling people about her new skills. Now, it's not just about having the skills, the knowledge, this experience, or how good we are, if nobody knows who we are and what we are about. To do that, we need influence. So by Jackie sharing this post, what she's doing, she's using her influence. But it's not what you know, it's who you know. And we've all heard that before. And to some degree, that's still true. But in today's workplace, it's more important who knows you, because your influence will open doors. For those of you who don't know who this is, it's Simon Sinek. And Simon has made a lot of money from speaking about how everyone needs to start with knowing their why. And it's exactly true with influencing. To be good at influencing, you first need to know your why. What does your influence need to achieve? Is it a new job? Is it more money? Or do you need more connections? In Liverpool, I attended the International Coaching Academy with the late John Haynes. And sadly, we lost him at the end of last year. At the start of every session with John, he would ask us what was our why. What he actually said was, "Come on, team, what's your music inside? Come on, tell me." And I always really had to sit and think about it. I knew I didn't want my own business. I didn't need to be a millionaire. And I realised that my why was that I am passionate about this profession, that I'm good at what I do. My music inside is to make myself the best assistant that I can be, and to promote and champion our profession. Now, to do that, I need influence. So I've had to learn, and I am still learning, how to use my influence. But what about you? What is your why? What is your music inside? What do you really want? It could be a new job. Do you want your own company or work for a particular company? When you know your why, you will know then where your influence needs to be. That's your why. But what about your organisation's why? It's really important for assistants to find out what our organisation's vision is and the direction it needs to go, because then you'll know where your influence is needed. When you do this with your executive, you are adding value. And an employee who is adding value is a valuable asset to an organisation. When you know your why and what you want to achieve, or when you know what your organisation needs from you, you'll need to then start using your influence. My passion is shouting about how fantastic our profession is and influencing the perception on our profession. I need to do that with assistants, of course, but I also need to influence business leaders and people who are decision makers. But we can't do that if we don't have anyone to influence. So how can you do that? You need to start building your networks, and you need to do it now before you need them. This will give you time to build those connections and to really let people see who you are and what you are about. So how do we build our networks? The first thing is to not panic. You just need to start, and to start small to begin with, and it will grow organically as long as you put in the effort. So who with? Everyone. Everyone you know, everyone new that you meet. Everyone has the potential to be a benefit to you either now or in the future. So where can you build your networks to open up your world? You can do this internally at work, at networking events, or on social media. When you network internally at work, this could be your team, your colleagues, your organisation. You could consider setting up your own internal EA network. I'm sure many of you have social events or coffee mornings, perhaps even lunch and learns. Attend your AGMs or seminars. Get yourself known to everyone. you go to networking events, there are so many online nowadays. Look for these on Google or places such as Eventbrite. Carry out volunteering or join community groups. Attend conferences and trainings just like this one. And I imagine so many of you are chatting away to people right now as I speak. Make those connections and opportunities will come your way. On social media, for me, LinkedIn, that's my go-to. But yours could be Instagram or Facebook, or as many of you are using now, Clubhouse. Network with fellow EAs, of course, and join groups such as Executive Secretary or the Institute of Administrative Management. There are so many. But also follow business leaders and social media experts. If there is someone or an organisation who is important to your executive, follow them, see what they are up to, and engage with them where you can. And the amazing thing with connections are that your connection has a connection who has a connection. Especially on social media, there are unlimited amounts of connections on social media. Take small steps to begin with, and like a snowball effect, it grows. Now, the other great advantage with social media is that you can get access to most people. In everyday life, you can't just rock up to somebody's office. On social media, you can. I have connections now in countries such as America, Australia, and India. Now, through my connection in India, not only do I have the most wonderful friend who inspires me constantly, but I have an opportunity in the future to perhaps speak there. Now, India has a very special place in my heart because of past experiences. And to think that one day I could return is another wonderful opportunity. I also know firsthand how social media can let you into the lives of people who you wouldn't ordinarily get to meet. When I was 25, I had a nervous breakdown and I was unwell for a period of time. There were a few things that helped me with my recovery, and one of those was a book written by Frank Bruno, following his own experiences of mental health. I couldn't describe what was happening to me, and I didn't know myself, but there are a couple of pages in Frank's book that hit the spot, and I could use that to show my parents how I was feeling. I'd felt like a failure having mental health, but I thought that if Frank Bruno, this great big strong man, could get mental health, then it was okay that I had it. And I'd always wanted to say thank you to him, and I never thought I would get the chance. 20 years later, I tweeted him to say thank you, and he responded. Now, arguably, you could say it was probably someone in his team replying, but to me, it felt that I'd finally got to say my thank you. So if you remember before, I explained that people do business with people that they know, and they like, and trust. When you expand your network of allies, you increase your visibility and influence, and your name will keep coming up for the right reasons. But if you want influence, you have to be able to start building those relationships and finding out about people. When you know people, you can start working out how you can help each other. What you are actually do is planting seeds with your influence. When you start building your networking and building your relationships, as with seeds, you need to nurture them. And if you do, your relationships will grow and you will form deeper connections with people who you can call upon. Okay, so we've talked about the importance of influence and building your networks. Okay, so we've talked about the importance of influence and building your networks. I'm now going to take you through the law of reciprocity. Have you ever experienced the feeling of wanting to do something for someone simply because they have done something for you? That is the law of reciprocity. So some time ago now, I was in the office and was going out, and I offered to get my colleague a coffee. Now, their preference is Cafe Nero, unlike mine. And I said casually, I'm just going to Costa, do you want one? And they did, and they offered to give me the money, and we had that usual, oh, I'll get it, no, you get it, that kind of conversation. And so I come back with a coffee, and that was that. The next day, my colleague went out and said, do you want a coffee? And I said, oh, go on then, yes, please. And when they come back, they've been to Costa and got me a coffee. Because they knew that was my favourite. They'd got me a coffee, but gone one better. Now that's a very simple example of the law of reciprocity. It's the same when you're using social media. If I post a comment on someone's post, they're more likely to comment on mine. There is that saying that we rise by lifting others. It doesn't guarantee it's going to happen. It makes it more likely. We have a deep-rooted desire to help those who help us. Now this is Michael Quigley of Cataholis, and I first started following and interacting with Michael back when he used to record his sessions in this cupboard. Since that time our relationship has grown, and I've watched as he continually improved and invested in his journey. He now has access to a recording studio and produces all his content professionally. A couple of years ago I went on his public speaking course, and we continue to keep in touch and we help each other when we can. In June last year, I interviewed Michael as a guest on one of my 5 Minutes With articles. We were talking a few months ago and I was telling him about the assistance and the struggles that we've been having. He listened and he asked if he could develop a free course that addressed those issues. Well, of course I said yes, and he went away and developed pandemic pain points for assistance. It was a real success, and over 60 people signed up. Now that is reciprocity in action. We both have the desire to help each other, and it's a win-win for both of us. Now Michael's business is predominantly aimed at business leaders, but by connecting with me, he has realised the opportunities for developing assistants. Now I'm writing a book this year titled Evolve, and Michael has already written a book and published, and he's offered me any assistance he can give throughout my journey. Now all of this wasn't expected when we connected. I was just intrigued to see what lessons he was giving from this cupboard. You never know where a connection will lead. By connecting and making time for each other, we have opened up our worlds to opportunities. Okay, so that was reciprocity. But what about specificity? There's two words, very hard to say. But gaining influence in today's world is difficult because as a society, we've never been so distracted. Everywhere you go, we've all got our heads down on our phones, haven't we? We've got information overload. We have a fast pace of life with very short attention spans. Look at Gordon there having a little kip. Specificity is the need for you to be specific with your why, with your how, with your communications and interactions. If you don't, then you're very likely to lose the attention of those you're trying to influence. Okay, so how can we do that? We need to spend time on planning our interactions. When you're planning your communications or your networking, keep it short and simple. Be clear, concise, and consistent. Gain interest and be persuasive and not vague. Catch their eye, be original, be unique, and build curiosity. And most importantly, be authentic. Specificity is the lightning rod to lead your contacts to take action. Okay, so now we have the attention of our influence. To be credible in a corporate environment is not about being the hardest worker, being the nicest person, or having the best qualifications. To be someone with influence, you need to be credible. To be credible is to be believed, to be convincing. Now, to be credible, there are a number of areas to be aware of. The first is with your knowledge and capability. One of the best ways to be credible is to be the expert in your field. Know what is going on in your organisation, in your industry, or with the competition. Be curious, ask questions, show that you are interested. If you ask questions, then you are in more of a position to know what is going on and what is important to people. Get involved in projects. Be creative. Be someone who solves problems. Work hard and strive to make a difference. Go above and beyond. Demonstrate potential. Learn new skills. Challenge old ways of doing things and find new solutions. And remember the 3 C's. Be clear, concise, and consistent. The next area is social media. Now, my partner has only just started using LinkedIn and looking for a new role. And I said to him, when someone wants to know about you, what do? And he just looked at me, clueless. And I said to him, they Google you or they look you up on LinkedIn. So think about what you want people to know about you. Your content on social media should reflect what you want people to know about you, what you believe in, what your opinions are. Now let me ask, have you ever Googled yourself? If you're on social media, you should really check in once in a while and make sure that what you find you are happy with, because when other people look for you, that's what they will find. The next area is behaviour. There are so many ways that behaviour can have an impact on your influence, and as you can imagine, it has to be positive. Now, when you see someone who moans all the time and they're walking towards you and you just think, oh my God, no, not today. Just don't be that person. I'm sure all your organisations have a vision and a mission, but are you living it? Do you demonstrate the values and inspire people to follow you? We need to be brand ambassadors, as I said before. We should be talking positively about our organisations, and that's in face-to-face conversations or networking or on social media. If you show passion for what you do, people will be drawn to you, be interested in what you and your organisation are about, and they will be more likely to recommend you. Be reliable. If you say you're going to do it, and do it well. Be so good that they can't ignore you. Prove your value, prove your worth. And again, most importantly for me, be authentic and sincere. Show your personality because it sets you out from the crowd. We also need to develop our emotional intelligence. We need to build good rapport with our networks and understand its wants and needs. Listen to people. Give them your undivided attention and make them feel heard and valued. As I said before, we need to be adding value. Be known as a connector in your network. Every time you connect to people, your credibility increases in both of their eyes. Be interesting, be inspirational, share your knowledge, and be a role model. If you do all that, you will be seen as someone who is credible. Okay, so I'm now going to move on to why we need to be able to adapt, and I'll come on to the sensory acuity in a bit. So why do you think this is important? We're all completely different in life. We all have different beliefs, values, interests, and opinions. Well, wouldn't the world be boring if we were all the same? But it also means that we need to treat everybody individually and adapt our style accordingly. To do that, you need to know who your audience is and tailor the message. To influence effectively, you need to understand how people do things locally, different cultures, sectors, and communities. And it's really important that you know who your audience is going to be and adapt. As I said before, it all comes down to planning. Now, you could do this yourself if you're planning your own influence, or sit down with your executive if it is for work. Now, use these questions. They're fantastic for gathering information before you start. So if we use our example about using our influence, we need to know what our message is and why it's important. We need to know who we're going to engage with, where our target audience consumes information, when you're going to do it, and how. We need to develop our emotional and political intelligence to achieve our objectives in a more inclusive way. We should treat everybody the same, but at the same time, we do have to treat people differently based on these factors. What works today may not necessarily work tomorrow. We're seeing millennials today with all their instant likes and feedback. They've got a very short attention span. By becoming a student of people, we can massively increase our ability to influence. And smiling is the same in all languages, and it's contagious. If you smile, they smile. Okay, so coming back to sensory acuity. What on earth is that? Sensory acuity is part of neuro-linguistic programming, which is a deep form of communication. It's a hidden, non-verbal language. It means how good your senses are to make observations about ourselves and other people. Acuity being keen to what is going on around you. You are more likely to evoke a response when you connect to people on an emotional level. We need to learn how to read people, to judge a situation and to react. People's behaviour changes from moment to moment, which has meaning, and you will notice it if you have sensory acuity. So we've all got sensory acuity and we use it every day, but we can develop it. Okay, so as with all things, it takes time and it involves practice. When you're with someone, you need to stay relaxed and pay attention to changes that are going on with them. This could be physiological changes such as their skin colour changes. Were they white before and they've suddenly gone red, or vice versa? Do their facial expressions change? Does their breathing change? Does their body language or posture change? The body doesn't lie and it expresses different feelings. When you notice the change, you may not know what it means, but what it tells you is that a change has taken place. The best way to notice these subtle changes is to develop your peripheral vision. When you are in a conversation with someone, look at them with soft eyes. Look at them as a whole. You're not looking at them directly. You're looking out for subtle clues. Now, advanced listening skills are another highly rated skill in business and is another skill which takes practice. We're so easily distracted in this world, as I said before, and when someone is talking to you, you need to listen. Listening shows you value that person. By developing your sensory acuity, you will understand so much more about that person, which builds rapport. And it lets you know if what you're doing or saying is having an effect. And by adapting and improving the experience, you are showing that person that they are valued. And when someone feels valued, you are developing your influence. And at the end of the day, that is what we are looking to do. So as we come towards the end, and I think it's most important that we think about maximising our presence. This is about realising the impact that you have on people, how they feel about you, and how you can send out the right signals to achieve your aim of developing your influence. This is your personal brand, your identity. It is what people say about you behind your back. So what do you want people to think about you? And are you behaving accordingly? Your body language is important as it affects how you feel about people when you walk in a room. It's the first impression of you. If you walk into a room all timid and shy and looking down at your feet or playing on your phone, if you give a weak handshake, if you don't look people in the eye, what will that person feel about you? Your presence has to match what you want to achieve. You need to walk into a room or show up on a virtual call with confidence and authority. Be alert, your head held high and your shoulders back, looking people in the eye and smiling. As I said before, smiling is contagious and it builds rapport. Use open gestures because this shows that you're less guarded. Turn your body towards people when you're speaking with them and show that you're listening. Now, well-groomed, I'll just touch on this because we all know how to dress. And working from home, perhaps we're not dressing the way we normally would, but it's important that we dress appropriately for the event. But we need to be clean and tidy. If you want to install confidence, generally I would say to dress smart. And I know it's difficult due to costs and sizing, but we can get the basics right. For me, the most important part of your presence, you need to bring your own positive energy, no matter how you feel. Now, I've seen this post on Instagram a while ago now, but it hit me straight away. This says it all to me. Bring your positive energy. It starts with you and your own mood. Your energy will impact on others and will affect your influence. In these times of virtual communication, it's even harder to maximise your presence. So you really need to bring on that positive energy. Okay, so once you've got your body language sorted and you're well groomed, and you start talking to people or engaging on social media, you need to know what it is you're talking about. The more knowledge you show, the more trusted you are, and the more likely you are to influence people. So make sure you keep up to date on issues affecting your company, your profession, or your industry. Share your knowledge, write articles or newsletters, speak up at meetings, or even consider public speaking. In conversations, use people's names because you make them feel important. Compliment people. If someone does a good job, then tell them. We need to be interesting and speak with confidence. As we've said, there are so many distractions, we need to grab attention. Staying in front of mind of the people you want to influence depends on your brand and your reputation. A good reputation opens doors, but it has to be built and it has to be deserved. Think about your own reputation, your executive's reputation, your organisation's reputation. If you don't develop and monitor your reputation and behaviour, it could undo all your hard work. If you behave as if you have influence, then you will be perceived as having influence. To have influence, you need to build rapport and develop trust. Everything that you do not only impacts on you, but you are also an ambassador of your executive and organisations. Be diplomatic and don't gossip. Be professional and display a positive manner. And be calm under pressure. Okay, so we've come to the end now, and we'll summarise that we've talked about what influence is and why it's beneficial. We've spoke about the importance of knowing your why. You're going to start building your networks and start using your influence. And we've been through the law of reciprocity and specificity. We've identified ways to be credible in a corporate environment, and we've gathered ideas as to how to adapt our style and develop sensory acuity. And finally, we've been through how we can maximise our presence. You know, successful people do things when they don't want to do them. Make a start. Start small, make an effort, and slowly it grows. The more you develop, the more it increases, and soon you'll be flying. What action will you take to open up your world with influence? I want to finish by saying that I attended a health and wellbeing event and volunteers were asked for a speak about mental health. With my background, I volunteered. So I attended the event and I just wanted to share with you before I go who the guest speaker was. It's Frank Bruno. Frank spoke about his journey with mental health. I got to meet my Frank. There he is, signing the very same book that got me through. I got to say my thank you. Now that really is the power of having connections. Thank you for listening, and please connect with me if we aren't already, and I'll be really happy to answer any questions. Enjoy the rest of Global.